All right, this is the guided practice for 2.5, and we're talking about ordering and comparing fractions, decimals, percents. So this first problem, let's make it nice and big. Okay, we have four fractions. We have 4/5, 1/2, 9/10, and 3/4, and we got to order them from the least to the greatest, the smallest. Okay. One way to do this is to have them all have the same denominator. Okay. And you go by least common multiple. I always go to the biggest number denominator. So the biggest one is this 10. And I say, can everything go into that? If it can, we're good. 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 5 is 10. 4 times nothing is 10. They all have to work. Now, if one doesn't, none of them do. So now the 10, let's go to the next common multiple of 10, which is 20. Does 5 go into 20? Yes. Does 2 go into 20? Yes. Does 4 go into 20? Yes. That's what I want. So I'm going to take this 20, and we'll go from here to here. To go from 5 to 20, it's times 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. Now I have another one from here to here. 2 times 10. So 1 times 10 is 10. Now I want to go to here. 10 times 2 is 20. 9 times 2 is 18. And then I go to here. 20. 4 times 5 is 20. 3 times 5 is 15. So now I think of this as pizzas. So I have a pizza, 20 slices is the whole pizza. Okay, this one has 16 slices, 10 slices, 18 slices, and 15 slices. I want the least. Well, 10 would be the least. 10, 20. A little bit more would be this 15, 15, 20. A little bit more would be 16, 20. And the most would be this 18, 20. Now, I could simplify these all to be back to their original. So 10/20 is the same as 1/2. 15/20 is the same as 3/4. 16/20 is the same as 4/5. And 18/20 is 9/10. So this is what they're asking us for. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it, and I'm going to do this one in blue, is to make these all to a decimal. And it's 4 divided by 5. That gets me 0.8. 1 divided by 2 gets me 0.5. 9 divided by 10 gets me 0.9. And 3 divided by 4 gets me 0.75. Then I'm going to line all of these up, line my decimals up, so I'm comparing the same place value. 8, 0.5, 0.9, 0.75. So now I'm looking at the tenths place, and that's what I'm going to compare. So we have 8, 5, 9, 7. 5 is the smallest, so this one will be first. A little bigger is this 0.75. A little bigger than that is this 0.8. And a little bigger than that is 0.9. And that would be fourth. Okay? But I want to put them in the original. So 0.5 is this one. So it's 1/2. 0.75 is this one. 3/4. The next one is 0.8, which is the 4/5. And then the last one is the 0.9, which is 9/10. Okay? So, I took it to have a common denominator, and it got me this order. I made them all to decimals, and it got me this order. So you can either go to a common denominator or decimals. Either way, when you compare them, you get 1/2, 3/4, 4/5, and 9/10. Okay? Number 2. Cora spends 2/3 of her free time blogging on the internet. Leah spends 60% of her time blogging on the internet. Who spends more of her time? So we're comparing 2/3 and 60%. We want to know which one is more. Let's take them to a decimal, shall we? So let's take 2/3. We could start by this. If you take 2 divided by 3, now when you see you do that, you get 0.6666666, and it goes on and on and on and on. So we could do that. 0.66, and I'm just going to round that up. So I'm going to make that be 0.67. Okay, 0.67. Now the 60%, I want to make that into a decimal. So I got to get rid of this, so I go over 1, 2. So it's 0.60. Okay. Now I'm comparing 0.67 with 60. It says who spends more free time. So which one's greater? When I have something like this, 0.67 and 0.60, I turn it into money. I think about money. 67 cents or 60 cents. Which one is more? The 67 is more by just a smidge. So 2/3, Cora spends a little bit more time blogging than Leah, who just does 60% of her day, or time, free time. Okay? When you're doing this, when you're comparing, you want to compare apples to apples. And what I mean by that is you want to get it to either all fractions, all percents, or all decimals. Decimals, fractions, percents. If you get it to all fractions, you want to make sure the denominator is the same so you can compare that way. All right, so you want to compare apples to apples. Not just a fun game, it's for us to use in math. Okay, number 3, that's our last one. The table shows the wins for some middle school football teams. Which team has the greatest fraction of wins? Okay, so we're comparing fractions. I want to put all of these in fractions. So 95%, I want it to be some fraction. When it's a percent, it's out of 100. So it's 95 out of 100. Okay? Now let me reduce this. Simplify it. Okay? I can divide each by 5, divide each by 5. Or you know what? Maybe I won't reduce it. Let me get them. It wants a fraction, so let me just start. I'll see if I need to reduce them. This one is 95 over 100. Okay? 95% of the wins. So if they play 100 games, they're going to win 95 of them. All right, the Wolves, 9/10. Now, 9/10 is already a fraction, but I want it to have the same denominator. Okay? So 10 times 10 is 100. 9 times 10 is 90. So they're 90 over 100. So over every 100 games, they win 90. Now the Mustangs are 0.89. Let's change that into a fraction. This last place value is hundreds, so it's 89 hundredths. 89 hundredths. And this is cool because they all have a denominator of 100. So now I got to find out which team has the greatest fraction of wins. They win 95 out of 100. The Eagles do. The Wolves win 90 out of 100, and the Mustangs win 89 out of 100. Who wins the most? Eagles. And what is their fraction? Their fraction is 95 over 100. Eagles. Go Eagles. Okay. go ahead and try the independent practice. It is on page 133, and do numbers 1 through 8. Don't worry about number 9, just do 1 through 8. Okay?